The ballroom smells like gardenias and money. 200 guests, dressed like they were born for rooms exactly like this one. Crystal chandeliers throwing gold light across silk and linen. A live high-life band on the far stage, playing with the kind of loose, joyful confidence that only comes from musicians who know the room is already theirs. Waitstaff moving between tables like quiet water. Champagne arriving before anyone thinks to ask for it. And at the center of all of it, turning slowly on the dance floor in a gold dress that catches every light in the room, is Serwa Mensaboteng. 41 years old, 12 years married. Flawless posture. Her husband, Kwabena, has his arm around her waist and his smile aimed at the cameras. He is handsome in the particular way that powerful Accra men tend to be, comfortable in their skin, easy in a room, the kind of man who shakes your hand and makes you feel like you've been waiting your whole life to meet him. The guests are watching them the way people watch a painting they cannot afford. With admiration, with something close to envy. Nobody is watching Serwa's pocket. She rehearsed this smile for 3 days. Not the smile itself, which has always come naturally to her, but the specific quality of it. The warmth, the ease, the way it needed to say to every person in this room that she is simply a happy woman at her own anniversary party and nothing else is true. She chose the gold dress because it has a pocket, deep enough, discreet enough. Inside that pocket is a folded piece of paper. The paper has been folded and unfolded so many times in the past 6 weeks that the creases have gone soft. Her names are written on it, in her handwriting, in ink she pressed hard enough to feel. Kwabena Mensaboteng, Atu Sarpo, Fiafai Dodson, and a fourth name. The name of a man who was paid a significant sum of money to leave Ghana and never return. The name of a man who, as of 40 minutes ago, is seated at table 11 with a glass of moat in his hand and the quiet, composed expression of someone who has been rehearsing his own performance. Serwa knows he is here. She put him here. What she does not yet know is that someone else in this ballroom is watching her the way she is watching everyone else. With patience, with calculation, with the specific stillness of a person who arrived tonight carrying a purpose they have not yet revealed. Serwa turns in her husband's arms. The band lifts. The room glitters. She smiles. Tonight was supposed to be her move. It is no longer only her move. 12 years ago, Serwa Adjuming was 29 years old and finishing her second year as a corporate attorney at one of Accra's most respected firms. She was not looking for Kwabena Mensaboteng. She was not looking for anyone. She had a studio apartment in Lab 1 with good light and bad plumbing, a caseload that kept her at her desk past midnight 3 times a week, and a reputation among her colleagues for being the sharpest reader in any room, the one who found a clause everyone else had skimmed past. She met Kwabena at a client dinner she almost didn't attend. He was across the table. He asked her one question about her work, listened to the full answer without interrupting, and then said something so precisely intelligent in response that she set her fork down and looked at him properly for the first time. She told her closest friend the next morning that she had met someone who thought the way she thought. Fast, layered, always 3 steps ahead. She did not know then that this quality, the one she admired most, would be the same quality that would eventually turn this marriage into a chessboard. They dated for 14 months. He proposed on a quiet Sunday morning in her apartment. No performance, no audience, just the two of them and a ring he had clearly thought about carefully. She said yes before he finished the sentence. The wedding was in December. 300 guests. Kwabena's family filled an entire section of the venue. Old Accra money, the kind that doesn't announce itself because it doesn't need to. The night before the wedding, Serwa slept at her mother's house, as was tradition. She does not know what Kwabena did that night. She did not know, for 11 years and 8 months, that there was anything to know. The photograph arrived on a Tuesday, slipped through the mail slot of their home in Airport Residential. No envelope, no return address, just the photograph itself, printed cleanly on matte paper like someone had taken care with it. She almost missed it. It landed face down between a utility bill and a magazine. She picked everything up without looking, walked to the kitchen, set it all on the counter, and only turned the photograph over because something about the weight of it felt deliberate. It was a photograph of Kwabena, taken at night, outdoors, The background was familiar, but slightly difficult to place. Somewhere in Accra, a compound she couldn't immediately identify. He was standing with two other men. One of them she recognized immediately as Otto Sarpong, his oldest friend and current business partner. The other she did not know. The three of them were looking down at something just outside the camera's frame. Their faces were not the faces of men at a casual gathering. There was no laughter, noise. What was on their faces was the particular kind of concentration that lives just on the other side of a decision that cannot be undone. She stood in her kitchen for a long time. Then she did what she has always done when something does not make sense. She became very still, very quiet, and she began to think. She did not confront Kwabena. She did not call Otto. She did not call the police or a friend or her mother. She put the photograph in the inside pocket of her winter coat, which Kwabena never touched because the harmattan had been mild, and she began, quietly and without any visible change in her daily behavior, to investigate her own marriage. It took her 4 weeks to find the name she was looking for. Ni Takia, a man who had worked for Kwabena's company 8 years ago in a mid-level logistics role. A man whose employment record ended abruptly with a generous severance package and no formal documentation of the reason for departure. A man who had, according to everything Serwa could find, left Ghana entirely and relocated to the United Kingdom. A man who, in the photograph, was standing on Kwabena's left, looking down. It took her another 2 weeks to find him, because Nitaki had not gone to the United Kingdom. That was the story. The story was paid for, like everything else in this situation, with Kwabena's money. Nitaki had been living in Kumasi for 8 years under a different name. When Serwa finally made contact, carefully, through a channel Kwabena could not trace, Ni did not run. He did not deny. He simply asked her one question. He asked her how much she already knew. She told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "There is more." She did not sleep properly for 11 days after that conversation. Not because she was afraid, though fear was present, but because she was processing, rebuilding the architecture of 12 years inside her own mind. Every trip Kwabena had taken, every late call, every moment where the explanation he gave her was just smooth enough that she had accepted it and moved on. She is a corporate attorney. She knows what a well-constructed story sounds like. She knows the difference between a man telling the truth and a man who has practiced the truth until it sounds identical. She had been practicing alongside him without knowing she was in a rehearsal. The thing that Ni told her, the fuller version of events, sat inside her chest like something swallowed wrong. Not because of what it revealed about Kwabena alone, but because of what it revealed about Otto. About Firefight Dodson, the third man, a name she had to work to connect but eventually did. And about the specific nature of what the three of them had agreed to do, and what they had needed Ni to help them carry, and what Ni had seen with his own eyes that made him too dangerous to keep employed and too known to simply dismiss. She is not going to share the full detail of what Ni told her tonight. Not with Kwabena. Not yet. Because the detail is not the weapon. The detail is the foundation. The weapon is the anniversary party. She began planning the party 9 weeks ago. Kwabena thought it was her idea. She let him think that. She let him be delighted by it. Let him make suggestions about the guest list and the menu and the band. Let him feel like a man whose wife loves him enough to organize a celebration of their life together in one of Accra's most prestigious private clubs. She incorporated every one of his suggestions because she needed him comfortable. She needed him present and confident and unguarded, standing in the middle of a room he believed was arranged in his honor. Serwa arranged this room like a document. Every name on the guest list was a clause. Every table placement was a paragraph. Every seating decision was made with the specific intention of placing certain people within sight of certain other people at certain moments in the evening to produce a particular kind of pressure. Ni is at table 11, close enough to the dance floor to be visible, far enough from Otto Sarpong's table that the sight of him will take Otto a moment to process. Otto is at table 6, best view of the stage. Kwabena insisted on putting his oldest friend at the best table, and Serwa agreed immediately, because table 6 also has the best view of table 11. Phi Dodson is at table 9. He does not know Ni is alive. He has not seen Ni in 8 years. He believes, as Kwabena and Otto believe, that Ni Taki is somewhere in England, silent, paid, and permanently removed from the story. He is about to see Ni Taki eat a bread roll 12 meters away. Serwa moves through the room in her gold dress and her rehearsed warmth, greeting guests, accepting compliments, laughing at the right moments, touching Kwabena's arm with the ease of a woman who is exactly where she wants to be. She is exactly where she wants to be, but then she sees her, a woman she does not recognize, seated near the back of the room at a table Serwa did not arrange. This table was on the guest list as a corporate courtesy. Kwabena's PA had added 3 names from a new business partner's office, and Serwa had approved it without scrutiny because she had been focused on the tables that mattered. She is scrutinizing it now. The woman is somewhere in her mid-30s, composed, well-dressed in a way that is deliberately understated, like someone who knows how to be in a room without belonging to it. She has been nursing the same glass of white wine for 40 minutes. She is not talking to the people around her. She is watching the room with the quiet, patient focus of someone who is not here to celebrate anything. And every few minutes, her gaze returns to Serwa. Not to Kwabena, not to the stage, not to the spectacle of the evening, to Serwa. Serwa does not let her expression change. She files this woman's face away and continues moving through the room. She does not know who sent her. She does not know what she carries. She does not know if this woman is a threat or a variable she can still control. What she knows is that her plan has a new element. And new elements, in a room this carefully arranged, are the most dangerous thing that can exist. Kwabena gives his toast at 9:15. He is extraordinary at this. He holds a microphone like it was made for him, and he speaks about Serwa with the kind of warmth that makes women in the audience touch their own chests. He talks about meeting her, about choosing her, about 12 years of a partnership that has made him, he says, a better man in every room he enters. The room applauds. Someone whistles. 3 tables away, Serwa watches her husband speak and thinks about the photograph in her winter coat at home, the one she has made 3 copies of. She smiles. She mouths, "I love you." He points at her, and the room laughs with delight. She is a remarkable performer. She did not always know that about herself. Marriage taught her. It is during the first course that she sees Otto Sarpong's face change. He is mid-conversation with the woman beside him, his wife, Abina, a gentle and oblivious woman who has always been kind to Serwa, when something at the edge of his peripheral vision arrests him completely. He goes very still. His fork stops moving. His eyes travel, slowly and with the particular dread of a man who is seeing something that should not exist, to table 11. To Ni, who is eating calmly, engaged in a quiet conversation with the person beside him, looking for all the world like a guest who belongs here. Otto sets his fork down, picks up his water glass, drinks, sets it down, and then, in a movement so controlled it is almost impressive, he reaches into his jacket pocket, removes his phone, and begins composing a message under the table. Serwa watches all of this from the corner of her eye. She knows who he is messaging. She ensured, 2 days ago, that the message will not be actionable. Across the room, a quiet notification lands on Kwabena's phone. She watches him read it. She watches the micro-adjustment in his posture, the almost imperceptible tightening around his jaw. He looks up, scans the room. His eyes land on table 11. He does not look up. He continues eating. Kwabena's gaze moves from table 11 across the room, and for 1 second, it meets Serwa's. She gives him a smile she has been rehearsing for 3 days. Warm, easy, undisturbed. He smiles back, but does not reach his eyes anymore. Good, she thinks. It is 20 minutes later, at the end of the second course, that Ni looks up. He finds her across the room, without searching, as though he has known exactly where she has been all evening. He raises his glass, slowly, deliberately, and he mouths 2 words. Not yet. The temperature of Serwa's blood drops 3 degrees. Not yet was not the signal they agreed on. The signal they agreed on was a single nod, measured, confirming that everything was in place. Not yet means something has changed. Something she does not know. Something that has altered the timing of whatever Nee came here tonight to do. And whatever it is he came here to do was supposed to be aligned with what she came here to do. If it is no longer aligned, she is standing in the middle of her own carefully constructed room, and she does not know what is holding it up anymore. She reaches into her pocket, touches the folded paper, breathes. If you have been listening from the beginning, do not go anywhere. What happens on this dance floor in the next few minutes will change everything you think you know about this marriage. Stay with me. She requested this song 6 weeks ago. She called the bandleader personally, under the pretense of coordinating the musical program for the evening, and she asked him to play it at precisely 10:15. The third set, after the second chorus had been cleared and before the dancing opened fully to the room. A moment when the floor would be intimate. When a couple dancing would look like romance, and not like two people who needed to be close enough to speak without being heard. The song is a slow high-life arrangement. Gentle brass, a guitar line that moves like memory. The kind of music that makes the body remember things the mind has been trying to forget. Kwabena takes her hand and leads her to the floor. Of course he does. He is a man who understands the theater of a marriage. The cameras are up. The guests are watching. He holds her beautifully, one hand at her waist, the other wrapped around her fingers, and they begin to move. She rests her head near his shoulder. She has 30 seconds before someone else joins the floor and the intimacy of this moment dissolves. She does not waste a single one of them. I know about the compound in Adenta, she says. Her voice is the color of the music. Quiet, warm, absolutely without tremor. I know what you and Otto and Fiafai did there the night before our wedding. I know when he was paid to leave. I know what he saw. A pause. One breath. And I know that the original documentation, the company records, the transfer receipts, the photographs, all of it is no longer only in your possession. Kwabena does not stop dancing. This is the thing about him. This has always been the thing. He does not react. He absorbs. He processes behind a face that gives you absolutely nothing. And then, when he is ready, he responds. She waits. He pulls her fractionally closer. Smiles for a camera she can hear clicking nearby. And then he says it. 6 words. Quiet as a door closing. Surwa, he works for me now. The floor does not move. The music does not stop. The brass continues its gentle arc, and the guitar continues its patient line, and 200 guests continue to watch a beautiful couple dance at their anniversary party. But inside Surwa's chest, something constructed with 9 weeks of precision and 12 years of patience begins to crack along a line she did not know existed. He works for me now. She replays every conversation, every coded message, every careful arrangement of information she shared with a man she believed she had found, isolated, and turned into her instrument. Not yet. The signal across the room. The raised glass. The 2 words that weren't part of their agreement. He was telling her. Not as a warning for her benefit, as a signal for Kwabena's. She was the one being watched tonight. She was the one being mapped. Every move she thought she was making in the dark, she was making under a light she could not see. Kwabena turns her gently. The room sees a husband treasuring his wife. The woman at the back of the room, Surwa says, her voice has not changed. She will not give him the sound of her unraveling. Who is she? Someone I trust, he says simply. She has been with you all evening, making sure you were safe, making sure I was contained. She translates. She breathes. Once. Twice. You knew, she says. I have always known, he replies. No malis. Almost gentle. You are the sharpest person I have ever met, Surwa. Did you think I built a life with you without understanding exactly what that meant? The song is reaching its midpoint. She does not have much time. The copies, she says, the documentation, are with people who work for me, he says, including the ones you thought you had placed with people who didn't. She thinks of the 2 contacts she used, lawyers she trusted, completely separate from Kwabena's world, people she had verified carefully over weeks. No, she says. I'm afraid so, he says. A pause in the music, a gentle lift. The guests murmur appreciatively at the band. And then Kwabena leans close, his lips near her temple. The way a husband leans toward a wife he loves in front of 200 witnesses, and he tells her the last thing. The thing beneath the thing. The secret inside the secret. The layer of this story she never found because she was too focused on the layer she had found. He tells her what the company records actually show. Not what he told her they showed. Not what the transfer documents appear to confirm. What they actually show in their original, unaltered form to a person who knows how to read them, which he has always known she does. He tells her whose name is at the center of the original documentation. Not his. Not Otto's. Not Fiafai's. Hers. Her name. Her signature. On a document she signed 11 years ago at the beginning of their marriage. A document presented to her as a standard asset protection instrument by the attorney handling their joint finances. A document she reviewed and approved and signed and filed away and has not thought about since. Because she trusted the process, because she trusted the attorney, because she was 29 years old and in love and could not have known that the document contained a clause, buried 17 pages deep, in language dense enough to obscure it, that tied her name to every significant financial transaction the company made in the 7 years that followed. The compound in addenda, the severance paid to Nee, the arrangements made the night before their wedding. Her name is on all of it. She has been a shield the entire time. The clean name, the respected attorney, the wife with no reason to be suspected. She has been the architecture of his protection for 11 years without knowing she was a building. The song ends. Kwabena steps back. He brings her hand to his lips. He kisses her knuckles with the warmth of a man who means it or performs it, and at this point she is no longer certain there is a difference. He smiles. The room applauds. He leans in one final time. The photograph you have been carrying, he says. The one that arrived in the mail on a Tuesday. She says nothing. I sent it, he says. And then he turns and walks toward another guest, and the room closes around him, and the band begins again. And Serwa stands at the edge of the dance floor in her gold dress with 200 people around her, and the specific, crystalline loneliness of a woman who has just discovered the full dimensions of the room she has been living inside. The guests leave in warm, unhurried clusters. Embraces at the door. Promises to call. Compliments about the venue, the band, the food, the dress. Serwa receives all of it gracefully. She is, as she has always been, composed. She holds her husband's hand at the exit, and they say their goodbyes together, the way a united couple does. Kwabena is in excellent spirits. He has the ease of a man who has just confirmed something he needed confirmed. The last car leaves at midnight. The staff begin their quiet work of dismantling the evening. The flowers, the linen, the half-empty bottles. Kwabena loosens his tie in the car on the way home. He does not speak much. He does not need to. The silence has the quality of a man who considers the matter closed. He falls asleep before 1 a.m. Serwa does not. She sits in the living room of their airport residential home in the gold dress. The lights low, the house quiet, the folded paper on a coffee table in front of her. She looks at it for a long time. Then she reaches for it, unfolds it for the last time, and looks at the 4 names. Kwabena Minsaboteng, Atu Sarpo, Fiafai Dodson, Ni Takie. Here is what Kwabena does not know. What his performance of control and his architecture of counterintelligence and his 11 years of careful construction did not account for. Because it could not account for it. Because it happened 2 days before the party, quietly and without announcement, in the office of a woman who is not a lawyer Serwa used for this marriage, not a contact Kwabena could have traced, not anyone connected to the life she has been living in airport residential for the past 12 years. She is a woman Serwa's mother introduced her to when she was 17 years old. A woman who has known Serwa since before Kwabena Minsaboteng was a name in her life. A woman who operates entirely outside the financial and legal ecosystem that Kwabena spent a decade quietly surrounding his wife with. Serwa gave this woman a specific set of documents 2 days ago. Not copies. Not the documents Nee gave her, which she understood from the moment he said not yet across the ballroom, may have been compromised. Different documents. Documents she had been building herself, quietly, from her own reading of the company's public filings, the land registry records, the import documentation for the Adena compound, and 3 specific financial instruments. She had the professional training to trace and the patience to follow to their origin. She did not need Ni. She never needed Ni. She used Ni because she wanted Kwabena to find him. She wanted Kwabena to know that Ni had been contacted. She wanted him focused on the room she was building, the guest list, the seating plan, the photograph, the copies she appeared to be placing with lawyers. She wanted him looking at the dance floor. While the real document was filed 2 days ago with the Economic and Organized Crime Office of Ghana, submitted under the name of a woman whose connection to Sirwa Mensah does not exist in any record Kwabena's people would have thought to check. The filing is not pending. It is received. It is logged. It is already in the hands of people whose access Kwabena's money cannot reach. Because Sirwa spent 3 months before any of this began making sure she understood exactly which hands those were. She picks up the folded paper. She looks at the 4 names. She takes a pen from the side table, and she crosses them off, one by one, not in anger, not in triumph, with the quiet, final precision of a woman closing a document she no longer needs. In the morning, Kwabena comes downstairs to find the house empty of her presence in a way that is not dramatic. Her clothes are still in the wardrobe. Her books are still on the shelf. Her car is still in the compound. But the energy of a woman who has been present in a space is a specific and irreplaceable thing. And it is gone. You find a single sheet of paper on the kitchen counter. Not a letter. Not an explanation. Not a confrontation dressed up in words. A clause. 17 pages deep in the original language of the document he had her sign 11 years ago. Highlighted, with a handwritten note beneath it in her handwriting. I read it this time. He sits down slowly. He sits for a long time, and the morning light comes through the windows of the house he built around a woman he understood, he believed completely. And the silence has a different quality now. Not the silence of a matter closed. The silence of a door that is already shut from the outside by someone who left before he woke up. The woman who stayed is not Sirwa. Sirwa is already gone, and the man still sitting at the kitchen counter in yesterday's shirt, holding a highlighted clause in a document he composed, is beginning to understand, for the first time in 12 years, what it actually means to share a room with the sharpest person you have ever met. If this story moves something in you tonight, if it kept you here, if it made you think twice about every room you think you have under control, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, leave a comment, share this with someone who needed to hear it. The next story is already waiting, and I promise you, it goes even deeper